Brothers, just a quick reminder, just like what we did yesterday, there'll be new brothers here, so just a recap of what we told yesterday. To give the maximum benefit of the lecture, just keep your questions till the end. So we have a dedicated session for question and answers, so just write it down or take notes or whatever, keep your questions to the last. And when the question and answer session comes, just raise your hands up, and then Sheikh will pick who gets the question. Jazakallah khair.
الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. In today, inshallah ta'ala session, we're going to be talking about the Manhaj Salafiyah and its reality, inshallah ta'ala. We hear this word a lot, Salafi, Salafi, this, Salafi, that. So what does it mean and what is its reality? I ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala that He gives us the strength to articulate this topic and be able, inshallah ta'ala, to bring it to you in its correct form. إِنَّهُ وَلِيُّ ذَلِكَ وَالْقَادِرُ عَلَيْهِ. The way that I will be doing it is in a few points, inshallah ta'ala. The first point, inshallah ta'ala, is, without going through any introduction, because the time is very short and the topic is very big, so I'm going to go through it point by point, inshallah ta'ala. The first point is going to be, what is the meaning of as-Salafiyah? Ma ma'na as-Salafiyah? What does Salafiyah mean? Okay, what does the word? So the first point, inshallah ta'ala, is Ma ma'ana salafiyah? What is salafiyah? What is its reality? The word, it comes from this root word, Sin, the letter Sin, and Lam, and Fa. It comes from this root, Sa, La, Fa. Sin, Lam, and Fa. Those three letters, right? And in the Arabic language, that word had a usage. It existed before. That word, Sin, Lam, Fa. It was used before Islam came, because this is an Arabic word. The Arabs were using the word. And what it meant is that which has come before. Yani anything that came before. That's what it was referring to. It was showing ala taqaddumin. Yani في اللغة, in the Arabic language, it meant تقدم وسبق. على تقدم وسبق. What does that mean? It means coming before. That's what it meant in the Arabic language. Nothing more to it. Okay? That's what you're going to find in the Arabic language. And that's what Allah tabarak wa ta'ala used also in the Quran. Allah used that word in the Quran, but He used it according to the linguistic usage, the lexical usage. Yani the Arabic lexical usage. So what did I say it means in the Arabic language? Coming before. Okay, and what was the Arabic word I used? Ala taqaddumin wa sabqin. And Allah used it subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Zukhruf, ayah 56. Allah used it in Surah Zukhruf, ayah 56. Allah says, فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخِرِينَ. Allah says, فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ, we made them salafan. We made them a predecessor. We made them those who came before them. Okay? That's what Allah tabarak wa ta'ala said. Also Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, He mentions in another verse, in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 23, Allah says, وَأَن تَجْمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْأُخْتَيْنِ إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفْ. In other words, what the ayah is saying, you're not allowed to combine between two sisters. It's haram for you to do that. what you're doing is haram. إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفْ, unless you did it before Islam came, then you're forgiven, but now you can't do that anymore. You can't practice that anymore. So that word is, what does it mean? Came first, before. That's what it meant. That is the usage in the Arabic language. Nothing more, nothing less. Does that make sense now? Are we all on the same page of what the word means in the Arabic language? Okay, good. Are we all together? Yes. So each point we all agree, and then we move on to the next point, inshallah ta'ala. Anyone have any question for each point, inshallah ta'ala? So I finished this segment. I'm going to take questions, and then we'll move on to the next segment. Anyone have any questions on this segment? Crystal clear. Good, mashallah. Now we're going to go into the word being used in the religion now. Not in the Arabic language, in the religion. And I want you to always remember this. This is a benefit you should always remember. The Quran, what language did it come in? In the Arabic language, right? So what the Quran does is it takes a word from the Arabic language, because it's used in the Arabic language, but sometimes it adds extra meaning to it that's not in the original Arabic usage. Does that make sense? Like for example, the word us-Salaf. What did it mean before Islam came? The word as-Salaf. It just meant dua. It just meant dua. That's all it meant, supplicate, to beg. Are we all together? But then the religion of Islam came, took the word as-Salah, and it gave it more than just a dua, supplication. It said that it is an act where you have to stand up, you have to face the Qibla, you have to raise your hands, you have to put your hand this place, and wahakadha. It became more than just what? Just dua. The same is with other words in the Sharia. It's taken from the Arabic language and extra meaning is added to it. Sah? So it's important that you learn it from the Arabic usage. What was it before? And then what did the Sharia do to that word? What did it add to it? What did it subtract from it? It will benefit you a lot. So the word Salaf now, in the Islamic usage, it means, what it means is, those who preceded you. Fine. That's still the Arabic word. It's still according to the Arabic language. It is those who preceded you in time. Okay? And virtue. They preceded you what? They came before you in time. Meaning their time was before your time. Second thing is, they came before you in virtue. They're more virtuous than you. And the reason we have to restrict it to virtue is because Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab came before us, right? And when we say Salaf, we're not referring to them, because they did not precede us in virtue. They're in the hellfire, right? Does that make sense? But the Arabic language, it was referring to what? It's in anything, and anyone who precedes you in it. But the Sharia is specific now. It only means virtue, piety. Those who preceded you what? In piety. Is everybody with me? So anyone who precedes us in time is not enough. Who are the people that we refer to as the Salaf? When we say these people are the Salaf, we mean the three noble generation, the three golden generation. So we're restricting the virtue hatta to what? To those three generation. Who are they? The students of the companions, the Sahaba, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. And their students. Who were the students of the Sahabas? The Tabi'un, mashallah. And who were the students of the Tabi'un? Atba'u Tabi'un. Those three generation are what we're referring to when we say the Salafus Salih, the pious predecessors. We are connecting ourselves to those three generations. Are we all together? The religion that was there in those three generations is what we take our religion. And anything that's outside of those three generations, we disregard it and dismiss it. Now, of course, there's more details to that. We're going to break it down as we go along. Now, somebody has the rights to ask and say, okay, those 3 generations, where's your evidence to restrict the virtue to them? Why can't you make it 400? Why can't you make it 500? Why are you specifically choosing these 3 generations? When we say generation, we mean roughly the first 300. The reason is because 2 evidences. There are 2 evidences that set us to understand that these are the ones that we're referring to. The first one is in the Quran. The first one is what? The Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ يرحمك الله وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. So Allah mentions those who preceded you. وَالسَّابِقُونَ. السابق is the person who came before you. And who are those who preceded us? Allah is saying, مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ and Ansar. Muhajirin and Ansar are 2 of the companions. Muhajirin are the people who came from what? Mecca to Medina. And Ansar are what? The people of Medina. And then look what Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُمْ. And those who follow them in what? بِإِحْسَانٍ. After that, look what Allah says after that. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah is telling us that He is pleased with the Muhajirin. Okay. And Ansar, Allah is pleased with the Ansar. وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ. And those are the ones who followed them. You can only be of one of those camps. So anyone here who's from the Ansar, put your hand up. No. Anyone here from the Muhajirin? No. And hopefully we wish to be from the third third group, which is what? Those that follow them. So you choose which one do you want to be. They definitely can't be from the Muhajirin and Ansar. That's gone. The opportunity is gone. So you're only left with the third option. If you become the third, which is to follow the Muhajirin and the Ansar, what are you going to receive? Radiyallahu anhum. Allah is going to be pleased with you. Allah is going to what? He's going to be pleased with you. Now, us being pleased with Allah, that's good. But Allah to be pleased with us, Allahu Akbar. That's even greater. Sah?
I think Allah is talking about 2 groups, not 3 groups.
He mentioned 3 groups.
No, Ansar and Muhajir at the same time. So
Okay, you want to make them one?
Yeah.
Okay, make them one then. But they're not the same.
Then you talk about Salaf in 3 groups. Then here it is 2 groups.
We haven't gone to the hadith here. We're going to break down the hadith. The reason why we separated the Muhajirin and Ansar is because the Muhajirin and the Ansar are what?
The same time, same groups.
They take the title of being companions, but who's more virtuous? What's the evidence that they're more virtuous? Remember, you can't just claim anything in these classes unless you give me evidence. What's the evidence that the Muhajirin, the people migrated from Mecca, are better than the people of Medina, Ansar? What's the evidence? What's the proof?
The hardship they got.
Who went through hardship?
The Muhajirin.
They did, no doubt. So did the people of Medina.
They were the first to believe.
Who were the first to believe?
The Muhajirin.
The Muhajirin were the first to believe. That's true. But does that mean every Muhajir took Islam before the... What about those who embraced Islam after the conquest of Medina? After the conquest of Mecca?
Prophet said about their virtue, like leaders should be from the Muhajirin.
Huh?
Leaders should be from the Quraysh and Muhajirin.
MashaAllah. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the leaders should be from Quraysh. No doubt about that. Which kind of alludes to their virtue. The evidence to show their virtue, brothers, is what?
So in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentioned Muhajir first.
Allahu Akbar, there you go. The verse itself is the evidence. Everywhere in the Quran, Allah always mentions the Muhajirin first. Ansar always comes second. That's one. The second thing is, the 10 promised Jannah alive in the one hadith. Who are they all from?
They were all Muhajirin.
All of them are Muhajirin. That doesn't mean that there were no other companions that were promised Jannah alive From the Ansar, of course there were. But the 10 that were one time named by the Messenger in one sit, where he mentioned all 10 of them, which we now call the what? Ashar al-Mubashirina bil-Jannah, the 10 promised Jannah. If you look at every one of them, they were what? And who is from the Muhajirin? The Messenger ﷺ himself. Are we all together? That doesn't put down the status of the Ansar. Allahu Akbar. Ansar have a big place in Islam. But the Quran always puts the Muhajirin first. That's why we separated them from each other. Are we all together? But together they are what? They are the companions of the Messenger ﷺ. They're the Sahaba to Rasulullah ﷺ. Now this ayah, how many groups did he mention? If we break it down, it's 3. And if we make the companions into 1, it becomes 2 groups. Now there's a hadith that's going to explain it even more. And this is something you need to do all the time. If an ayah mentions a statement, or an ayah mentions something, the Prophet will come and he will explain that verse for us and give us more understanding to it. The Messenger ﷺ, he said in a hadith. Okay, by the way, the ayah that I read, it's in Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 100. Are we all together? Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 100. وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. These are all from what? They are the Muhajirin and Ansar and those who follow them in good. Then the Messenger came in a hadith in Sahihayn, Bukhari and Muslim, من حديث عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, what did he say? He said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, خير الناس قرني, the best of my people, the best of this ummah is who? خير الناس قرني, my generation. ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. So the Prophet mentioned 3. خير الناس قرني, the best of people is what? My generation. That would be him and who? His Sahaba. That's 1. ثم الذين يلونهم, and those who come after, and they are the what? Tabi'in. And then the messenger then said ثم الذين يلونهم, and then he mentioned أتباع التابعين. Are we all together? The khairiyyah, the good, is in this 3 generation now. Are we all together? If you look at the bulk of Islamic disagreement, discord, arguments, back and forth, groups and sects, they came out, the majority of them, after the 3 generation. Are we all together? There's 3 golden generation. When they were alive, the disputes were less than after that. Now I'm not saying there were no disputes and disagreements within that time, there was. But the bulk of disagreement that you're seeing today, they came about after what? After those 3 generations. Now please pay attention here. There's vital information that you understand. Do you all understand what we mean by the word us-Salaf technically? According to the Sharia, what does the word Salaf mean? Huh? Those who preceded us in time and who are those ones who preceded us in times and virtue? The Sahaba and Tabi'een. Tabi'een. Now I ask you guys a simple question. On what I just said right now, are those people a group? The people who say, I want to follow those 3 golden generation, I want to stick to and they carried on the legacy that the Sahabas passed on to them. It was so clean and so Tabi'een came into Abdullah ibn Mubarak, and after that, after the subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from them. Those people, it's not fair to say bad things about them and to say that they are deviated or they are causing disarray amongst the ummah and they are causing confusion, etc. Are we all together, brothers? Yes. They're not. They're keeping the religion clean and pure, and we're going to learn that more inshallah ta'ala. Is everybody with me here? Yes. That is simply what Salafi is. Who wants to be a Salafi? Put your hand up then. Based on what you just learned today. We all want to be. So you don't have to go to somebody, brothers, and say, I'm going to give you bay'ah. I'm going to follow you, you be the leader. There's no one you have to go to. There's no masjid you have to register yourself. Just follow the 3 golden generation, and guess what? Wherever in the world you're from, whatever background that you are, whatever culture you have, whatever household you grew up in, guess what? You're a Salafi, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what? Make us from them. This term, Salaf, that's what it meant, right? It meant the 3 golden generation, right? Then a ya was added to the end to say what? So the Sahabas never needed to say that, because everybody knew they were the most honourable and most virtuous of people, right? They didn't need to say it. Everybody knew the Sahabas were honourable. And then the Tabi'een didn't need to say that, because they were what? Because they were stated in the hadith. And the Atba'u Tabi'een didn't have to. But then guess what? After that, deviated groups came, and then the people who were following the 3 generations had to say to the people, we're not upon what you guys are upon. We're sticking to this. So then they said that we are called what? Salafi, meaning I attribute myself to. I connect myself to. Not a person. Because all the other groups, when you look at them, they are named after people. Jahmiyyah are named after Jahm ibn Safwan. Asha'irah are named after Abil Hassan al-Ash'ari. Are we all together? They're either named after a person, okay, or they are named after an ideology, a view that they held, which was deviated, so they got named after that. Such as the name Al-Qadariyah, because they went deviated in the issue related to Qadar, okay, they were called Al-Qadariyah. The Mu'tazila, like Wasil ibn Ata, he was in the class of Al-Hassan al-Basri, and he deviated, and Hassan al-Basri looked at him and he said, "I'tazil anna, leave us." And then the whole group became called what? Al-Mu'tazila. Are we all together, brothers? So this is, now I'm trying to break it down and make it simple for everybody to comprehend and understand. Salafiyah is, this is what it means. Are we all together, brothers? There are other names that are synonymous, meaning they're the same. You can call it Salafi if you want, and there are other names that they have as well. From their name is what? Ahlul Hadith. Ahlul Hadith and the Salafis are the same. The name is the same. Also, Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah is the same. Are we all together? Ahlul Athar. So Athari is the same as Salafi. All of these are what? Synonymous. Are we all together, brothers?
Wahhabi also like that?
Ooh. Good question, good question. No, all sorts of questions are open, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you. Good question. Wahhabiyah, may Allah bless you, is a derogative term. What does that mean? It means a group of people connected this to a great scholar that came out from Saudi Arabia. He came out from Saudi Arabia, and inshallah ta'ala we're going to shed some light on who he is and why they called the people who follow his teachings and what he taught Wahhabis. But his name was known as what? Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. So they said you guys are called Wahhabis. But there's nobody who will accept that name, and nobody likes that name, and nobody agrees to that name. Is anybody Wahhabi here? It's from the names of Allah, so nobody would accept it. But you're right, it's a good question, very good question. A lot of people, they make Wahhabiyah similar to what? Salafis. What we do is, when somebody comes, we look at what they teach. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab has books, he's written. So we look at his works. If Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab goes against Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, he's going to be considered from the deviated people, just like everybody else was, or the other people were considered to be deviated. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab will be pushed aside. This, I told you, this road, this clean legacy, does not tolerate compromising. Anyone who goes against it, whatever name or title they have, it doesn't matter, they'll go to the side. So Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's works, when it was looked at, and it was checked, it was in line with what those great imams, what the Prophet was preaching, is exactly the same. It's like, okay. And that's why it was embraced and it was taken. Does that make sense? So now we've understood what Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, Salafiyah, Al-Athariyah, all of that, what it means. Are we all together? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was one day with his companions, and he said to them, my ummah is going to become divided. Are we all together? Meaning, this is all Muslims. They're not disbelievers. These are groups which are all what? Muslims. The Prophet said, my ummah, the Muslims, are going to be divided into 73 groups. How many groups? 73, the Prophet said. He said, سَتَفْتَرِقُ أُمَّتِي عَلَى 73 فِرْقَةٍ. 73 groups. كُلُّهَا فِي النَّارِ. All of them are in the hellfire. إِلَّا وَاحِدَ, except one. There's only one group that's going to make it out. There's only one group. The Sahabas, they came forward and they said, Man hiya ya Rasulullah? Who is this one group that's going to make it? Now pay attention to the Sahabas. This is great knowledge, by the way. For them to say who's going to make it, not who's not going to make it. They asked what? They asked who's going to make it. They just want to be from that. The Prophet didn't say the people who are going to make it, they have to look like this, or they have to be from this part of the world. He didn't say that. He gave a description. And I'm sure every person can be part of that. It's so easy for you to be part of it. And if you come with it, guess what? Inshallah, you're going to be from that what? That saved group. What did the Prophet say? من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابي. Anyone who is upon that which I and my companions are upon, if you're upon it, you're going to be from those people. Are we all together? Anybody who is upon what I and my companions are upon, you're going to be from the saved group. That's it. You just have to follow who? The Prophet and his companions. Because the tabi'een, they follow the Prophet and the companions. And the atba'u tabi'een, they follow the what? The Prophet and the companions. وَلِذَلِكَ if you summarize Salafiyya into just following Allah and His Messenger and the companions, because everybody else is following the companions, you are from the saved group. What are you from? From saved group. If you don't follow the companions and the Prophet ﷺ, you're going to be in what? The other 72. You're going to be from the what? How many groups did he say? 73. If you subtract 1 from 73, how many are you left with? The other 72 are in hellfire. And the only one that's going to go to Jannah is what? The ones who follow the Prophet. What's their name? That's it. Salafiyya, Ahlul Sunnah, Al-Firqatul Najiyah, Al-Ta'ifatul Mansura. That's what's gonna.
If anyone is from the 72 and they recite the kalma, and they will be also in the hellfire, even they, it's not in that book, but he's a Muslim, he's speaking those La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah.
So what did we take yesterday? That Muslims can go to the what? The hellfire. Muslims can go to the hellfire, صح? If a Muslim drinks khamar, what's going to happen to him? If a Muslim cheats and steals somebody's wealth, where's he going to go to? The hellfire. So if you become from the 72 groups, you're going to be what? From the hellfire, but you're still a Muslim. So meaning you're not going to stay in hellfire forever. Because you're a Muslim. At the end of the day, you're going to come out one day. But who can take Jahannam for even one split second? May Allah not make us from there? Brothers, when I first heard about Salafiyya, I listened. One of the people who I learnt it from, I listened to, and really, wallahi, I was impacted. I loved it. The way he explained it to me and I heard it was Al-Allama Muhammad Nasiruddin Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. I loved Sheikh Albani. I used to listen to his tapes. Sheikh Albani has a tape, 800 tapes. It's called Silsila Huda Wan Nur. I listen to each and every single one of them. And in there's discussions and dialogues and people coming to him, and Sheikh had a lot of debates with different people, and he had different discussions. Sometimes his students would ask him questions, and you just feel. So one of the discussions he had was on this issue of Salafiyya. And the simplicity of it. To be upon the Quran, the Sunnah. And to understand the Quran and the Sunnah in the way that the companions understood it. I'll give you guys a important point. Because if you get the Quran and you look at it and you read it and you look at the hadith and you read it and you say, I'm going to look at these two in my own understanding, you're going to come with deviation. You have to say this verse. What did the 3 golden generations say about this verse? I want to know what Abu Bakr said about this verse. And Umar and Uthman and Ibn Abbas and Ibn Mas'ud and Ibn Umar. I want to know what they say about this verse. What did the Tabi'een say about this verse? What did the Atba'u Tabi'een say about this verse? Then you're going to not only come with the Quran and the Sunnah, but you're going to come out with good understanding of the verse. Are we all together, brothers? For example, a deviated group who hate the Sahabas. They hate the what? They hate the Sahabas. And they're anti-Sahaba, right? They read the Quran. Imagine, they read the Quran you're reading. And from there, they saw a verse where Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرًا in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah commands you to slaughter a what? A cow. This deviated group, what did they say? that the Baqarah in this verse Allah is talking about is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha. Are we all together? And they said, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tadbahu baqarah. This is what it means. Now the question here is, who said that before? Where did you get that from? You can't just look at the Quran and take your preconceived notion. You believe something and then you force the Quran to take that meaning. Are we all together, brothers? That's what happened when people just tried to read the Quran the way that they wanted to. They had a belief, they have an idea, they have concept in their heads, and they look for verses in the Quran to what? To support it. Are we all together? So how can you end that issue? How can you close that door? You say, we don't want your understanding. Keep your understanding to yourself. You say to me, Abdurahman, Jazakallahu khairan, I know you read an ayah, and I know you read a hadith. We don't want your understanding. I will say, okay, you're right, it's true. My understanding is insignificant. Who said it from the 3 golden generation? Are we all together? We won't take Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's words and his understanding on a verse if he hasn't brought it from the 3 golden generation. We're not going to take Albani's view on a matter if he hasn't taken it from the 3 noble generation. We're taking no one's opinion unless they reference it back to what? Are we all together, brothers? Yes. This sets the road separate for so many things. Is that simple, brothers? Does it make sense to you? Be honest. And if it doesn't make sense to you, you're more than happy to, I'm more than happy, inshallah ta'ala, to answer your question. You can put your hand up and we can, inshallah ta'ala, answer your question. Because it's important for you to understand this.
Sheikh, in the Quran we find that Allah Ta'ala named us Muslim. And we're trying to name ourselves Salafi, Sunnah al Jama'ah. Why it is there? And
pause there, let's do that one, inshallah. Let's take question by question. Good one. Let's take that one first. Very good question. Allah did call us in the Quran what? Muslims. But all of these groups that we mentioned, the Ash'ara, the Sufiya, inshallah, all these groups, they are what? Muslims, inshallah. As long as they don't come with something that nullifies Islam, they are what? They are Muslims. When I ask you, what are you? What are you going to say? I'm a Muslim. Now, that's which Muslim are you? If you think to yourself that nobody wants to know more than that, then you're not living in the real world. The reality is, every single person falls within Islam in some way. Are we all together, brothers? Is that true or not? Everybody does. And to say that I'm just Muslim is floating. If you then say to me, no, I'm a Muslim who follows the Quran and the Sunnah, I'll be like, good, okay. And how do you understand the Quran and the Sunnah? You're like, I understand it the way the Sahabas and the Tabi'in and Atba'u Tabi'in said it. I will just say to you, I'm just saying exactly what you're saying it, but I'm saying it faster than you. You're saying I'm a Muslim who follows the Quran and the Sunnah on the understanding of the Sahabas. I just say I'm Salafi. Who's faster?
Well, you need to.
I didn't say you have to. I didn't say you need to. I'm not saying that you must. If you don't want to call yourself, you don't have to. No one said that you have to. It's not a must.
We are talking about the Manhaj of the Salaf. We could have talking about the Manhaj of Muslim Islam. That should be the standard of Islam, isn't it?
Again, I mentioned something very important to you. When you say the Manhaj of Islam, all of the groups that came before, they're still Muslims. Are you with me? So are we going to also take their misunderstanding, their deviation, and their corrupted opinions? Are we also going to add it into what? Into the understanding of the religion? Or should we say, no. We want to stick to this. I used to live in London. For the last 5 years, I've lived in the UAE. Right in front of me in London, there was a church. Just right in front of me, there was a church. So on Sundays, I used to see the people coming to the church. So I always, on every Sundays, they come in large numbers. And I would see in that church songs, dancing. I wouldn't see any worship. According to them, there's nothing. They're dancing, they're singing, they're playing. So I asked myself, an entire religion has become dancing and singing. Nothing else. How is that possible? The way that happened was, when someone came and changed their religion, they didn't say, hey, stop. Don't change our religion. We don't want you to tamper with our religion. They let him do it. He changed 5%. Another one came, he added another 5% to it. 10% now. Another one came and he changed another 5%, 15%. And as time went, the Christianity, the religion became something different. Do you understand? Islam, great imams didn't allow that to happen. قَيْدَ أَنْمُلَهِ, even a little bit, they didn't let anyone change the religion. They'll say, stop, what are you doing? That's not part of our religion, leave it. Leave it as it is. That's why we have today the Prophet ﷺ, the way he lived, the way he is, because a group of people chose not to change the religion. Or else, our religion would be something different to the time of the Messenger ﷺ. Are we all together?
Yes.
And these people, we have to respect them. Are we all together, brothers? And the term Salafi, or calling yourself Ahlul Sunnah, or calling yourself Athari, it's not a must. You don't have to call yourself it. I'll be honest with you, I don't go around telling people when they say to me, how are you? I'm good, mashallah. How you? What's your religion? I don't say my religion is Salafi. I just say I'm a Muslim. And then if the person says to me, okay, but I want to know more about you, Abdurahman, I'll just say to you, I'm Salafi. I'll make it easy for you. The reason is because the religion, as I mentioned to you, so many people came and they changed the religion and they tampered with it. So you need to tell them, I'm not with those people. I am upon the people from Nabi Muhammad who kept it clean and did not tamper with it and left it pure and clean. Even me, I'm hoping, inshallah, to be from those people. I hope. I ask Allah to keep me on that. I'm worried. I make dua. And that's why I want everybody to have their religion pure. Take it from directly the source. That's what Salafiyah is. Does that make sense, brothers? Okay. Now, just like we mentioned before, can there be bad Muslims?
Yes.
Does that mean Islam is bad?
No.
So there can be bad Salafis. Does that make Salafiyah wrong? So just because some people are doing bad things under the name, doesn't mean it's bad. Just like if somebody does something bad under the name of Islam, it doesn't make Islam wrong. It makes you a bad person. If somebody lies and cheats, it doesn't make Islam a lying, cheating religion, does it? It doesn't, in any way, shape or form. So now we've taken the meaning of Salafiyah, which was number one. The second thing that we did was we took names that are similar to Salafiyah. What did we say are similar to Salafiyah? Ahlul Sunnah, Ahlul Hadith, and Ahlul Athar. At-Ta'ifatul Mansura, Al-Firqatul Najiyah. That's also from the names. Also from their name is Al-Ghuraba. Al-Ghuraba means strangers. Sah? Strangers means what? It's just that when people see them, it's like, whoa, what world do you live in? Sah? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his garment, just example, how short was it?
Above the ankle.
So above the ankle is a must. But I'm asking, how short was the Prophet's garment? Half his shin. So the half a shin means that your knees up to your ankles, half of that. That's the Prophet ﷺ's garment, where it used to reach. That doesn't mean everyone has to have that. Everyone has to have their garment above their ankles. It's a must for the men. It's wajib for you to have your garment above your ankles. But if you want to follow the Prophet and be like the Prophet, you make it what? Today if you wear half your shin, and you walk around, what will happen to you?
People laugh.
People look at you and say, strange, ghareeb. That's the word exactly they would use for you, sah? So you become from the what? From the ghuraba. You become from the what? If a person has a big beard and does not touch their beard, and they leave it the way that it is, like the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's beard was, what will happen? Huh? Mutaba'thir. All those titles and names will be given to you. They'll look at you and say, Wallah, ghareeb. You become from the what? Al-ghuraba. Then anyone who sticks to what Nabiullah Muhammad is upon, he's going to be considered to be from the what? From the ghuraba. He's going to be from the what? Should you worry because you're from the ghuraba? Fatuba lil ghuraba. Glad tidings to the strangers. Don't worry. Don't feel loneliness just because you're by yourself on the path. Don't worry, inshaAllah ta'ala. Just remember how Nabiullah Muhammad was in Mecca. And his companions, they were the strangers amongst everybody else. You're going to be a stranger like that in holding on to your religion. Are we all together? So that's from their names. They're called the what? Al-Ghuraba. Is everybody with me? Now, I need to clear a misconception that some people have, which is, some people believe that Salafiyya is to be rude to the people, to be disrespectful to the people. When you meet somebody and you're Salafi, you're angry, you're frustrated. That's not how the Messenger was, alayhi salatu wasalam. Are we all together? If you meet your Muslim brother, Salafiyya teaches you all the hadith that come in virtuous actions, which is to smile in the face of your brother is a what? The Salafi, when he sees people who have gone wrong, he wants to bring them to the khair. And he takes the most gentle method, very soft in how he talks to the people, with respect, with gentleness. He also is willing to listen to anyone who tells him, I need to advise you. He'll say, okay, I want to hear. What do you want to advise me? What do you want to advise me with? And if they get it right and they tell you the truth, don't be arrogant. Say, you know what, brother? Jazakallahu khairah. Because the truth is the lost property of the believer. And you should take it from wherever you find it. Somebody tells you the truth. Are you going to say, it's because it came from you, I ain't taking the truth. I'm not taking the truth. What did the poet said? لا تحقرن الرأي وهو موافق حكم الصواب إذا أتى من ناقص فالدر وهو أعز شيء يقتنى. You take it, صح? ما حط قيمته هوان الغائص. If you lost your phone and someone took it and put it on top of a rubbish bin, or they threw it in the bin, and it's your iPhone 14 that you just bought, and somebody puts it in the bin, and you see it, it's in the bin, are you going to leave it? Yeah? Are you going to take it? Then why would you not take the truth from where it comes from? Sah? So somebody says, I want to advise you. The Salafi, because he wants to get closer to Allah, he knows he's imperfect. He knows he's not perfect. He wants to clean himself from any mistakes. So he wants to meet Allah, and he is at the best form he can possibly be at. So he's willing to listen. What do you want to tell me? Jazakallah khairan. Are we all together? He's going to take it. وَلِذَلِكَ The Salafi is known for the purity of his aqeedah, and is also known for his akhlaq and adab. The mannerism. Are we all together, brothers? Very gentle, kind, respectful. It's a must. So there is, sadly enough, some people who understood Salafiyah and they take a very harsh position towards the general mass. So for example, I was in a masjid one time with a Salafi brother. And we walked into the masjid. And the masjid, they were Hanafis in madhab. They're what? Hanafi. Yani Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, the great Imam. So he entered the masjid. When he entered the masjid, the people, of course, they don't put their hands on their chest. Where do they put their hands? They put it down. And also when they do ruku' and sujood and all of that, they don't do what? And this brother, he just finished Sifr Salat al-Nabi with Shaykh al-Albani's book. He just studied it. He's pumped. He knows this. He has come across the hadiths related to these issues. So when he came, I was with him. The salah finished. We said, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah. I don't even know when he jumped. He jumped, went at the front of the masjid, and he said, Inna alhamdulillah. I was like, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? Or he's going to get us in trouble. So what I did was I got closer to the door. Just in case anything happens. So what did he say? He said, brothers and sisters, I have come today to tell you guys about the sunnah. Hey, what's the sunnah? You guys have to raise your hands when you're doing Raf'ul Yadayn. He brought the hadiths and mashallah, he mentioned the hadiths of the kitab. They got angry. They felt offended of what he was doing. Sah? And it got physical. Now the question is, was it wise for him to do that? No. Was it right?
Yes.
Put your hand up if you think it was the right thing to do.
It was wise.
Was it the right thing for him to do? Put your hand up if you think, Allahu Akbar, he's telling the people the sunnah. Put your hand up, no problem. No one's going to judge you. Just tell me if you...
If you took a better approach.
Right thing, yes, right, but
Yeah, he didn't insult anybody. He went at the front and he told them.
The way what he did was wrong.
Yeah?
What he said is correct, but there is a way of approaching people.
Huh?
So the way he approached was wrong.
The way he did it was wrong.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about. Do you think what he did was right?
what he did or how he did it.
Of course, how he did it, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the issue of can you raise your hand or not, Raf'ul Yadayn. We're not talking about that mas'ala. Huh. Yeah? How he did it was wrong? Yeah, because it caused a greater fitna. Sah? It caused a what? A greater fitna.
Against the teachings of Prophet.
No doubt. That's not how you deal with these issues. Do you understand, brothers? You don't deal with the issues like that. You don't hasten to... I remember I was in a masjid one time, and it was a Hanafi, tough Hanafi masjid. So I prayed, of course, I moved my finger in the salah. The man next to me grabbed my finger to stop it. He wouldn't let my finger move. So I kept it straight, salah finished, salam alaikum, salam alaikum. I didn't even say anything to him. I went quiet. And he said, what did you do? Why did you do that? She went quiet. He wanted to talk to me about it. I said, no problem, no problem. I just want to leave. The Muslim should not create a bigger problem and a fasad and a calamity in issues. Are we all together, brothers? If I'm going to tackle this issue, I'm going to do it with wisdom. I'm going to talk about it in another logistics, another method. But right now he wants to take, if he's physical, he's grabbing my finger, and then me to address the issue, it's going to become what? So this is the thing I advise you, brothers. As a person of the sunnah, inshallah, may Allah make us from them, is we need to, look, Shaykh Nasir rahimahullah, he said something that touched me. He said that the truth is already heavy. Don't make it heavier than it already is. The nafs doesn't want the shaitan doesn't want you to take that. It's already something people are running away from. So it's heavy when you give it to them. As Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّا سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. It's heavy. So if it's already heavy, to make it even more heavy for the people where they say, I don't want this. It's a problem, brothers. Sah, brothers. It is. I remember one time, I was in college, and there was a brother in my class. We were sitting, we used to do classes. It's a college, non-Muslim college. It's London. This is not Islamic studies we're doing. I'm doing business, here for money. So he sees me and he says to me, Abdurahman, we don't know each other, it's first time. I was about 18. He said, Akhi, I haven't seen you in the college before. I said, I just started this week. So he wanted to get to know me. He said, he was here last year, and there's an Islamic masjid inside the college. So anytime Salah comes in, you can pray. I said, thank you. I really appreciate that. Where is it? So we got to know each other. And as we got to know each other, he asked me, what are you? I said, I'm Muslim. He said, no, I want to know more. I said, Salafi. He goes, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I said, why, akhi? The discussion started. He goes to me, I am Ash'ari. So he wasn't offended the fact I call myself Salafi, because I'm not attributing myself to a person. Salafi is not a name of an individual. He's proud to attribute himself to somebody who came after the 3 golden generation. He's happy to. Are we all together? So I said to him, no problem. I didn't even want to have more discussion with him personally. But he brought it up. He wants to discuss it. So it's hikmah for me to talk to him now. He wants to. So we spent every break, every single break that we had in college, we spent back and forth at each other. I would carry books to college, and we would sit in the playground, we go to the corner, and we would just discuss these issues and back and forth. Wallahi, the thing that I want to say to you all, it was never disrespect. It always stuck to the topic. It never got outside, physical, you shout your name. It was, why can't you see that? And I'm only 18. And the brother was maybe 21 or 22. He was either 20 or 21. Maybe even 22. And it was until the college finished that year, and Allah Mubarak, he came to us, Salafiyah. He embraced it. Because of the discussions we kept having, I kept saying, I'm not going to take anything other than the 3 generation. I want to stick with that. So anything you say to me, the 3 generation. I know you as a Muslim, you love the 3 generation, golden generation. He said, of course I love them. Because every Muslim's going to say to you, I love them, right? So I say, anything you say to me, let's both agree to take it back to the 3 golden generation. He said, I'm more than happy to. Anything you say, we'll discuss it on that. So I have reference for all of the things I am saying to the Salaf, because I have kutubu al-isnad. I have the chain for everything I'm saying. He says something and he says, I don't know where the Sheikh got it from. He's now questioning the person he never used to question. So there were sessions for 10 to 15 minutes where I was watching him reference his Sheikh and saying, but where did the Sheikh get it from? I wasn't saying anything, I was just watching. And then he goes through the next quote and he himself says to him, what about this? Where did the Sheikh get it from? He's turning over the pages and he's asking. I'm just looking at him saying, because we agreed on this. We agreed on this base. And it reached a point where he realized a high percentage of what he believed was where there was no evidence for it. Are we all together? And anything he quoted, that he said the Sahaba said, it will go through thorough grading. So we will sit down and we will look at the chain together. And we spent a whole year doing that. So what I want to say, inshallah ta'ala, is that this is all Salafiyah is, inshallah ta'ala.
What would be the reaction of a person if he's telling he's a Shia Muslim, he's my friend, but he's saying bad things about Sahaba. How can a person will react to his thoughts and he can change his thoughts? Like he's saying bad to Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Usman, and bad things about them. So
For me personally, within the Muslims, there are groups I just don't like to sit with. As tool. I avoid sitting with them.
if
For
they're
all.
saying in the classroom something
Again,
like that,
again, there are certain people I just will never sit with. My heart cannot tolerate anyone saying anything about
Sahaba,
the Sahaba. That's a red line you just don't cross. It's a red line you don't cross. So for me personally, I want to avoid it. I want to stay away from you. And it's good for you to stay away from me. Because the Sahabas is a red line you just don't cross. Abu Bakr, he's more beloved to us than our mothers and our fathers and our children. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ are more beloved to us than what? Our own mothers. Are we all together? So people who critique and criticize these golden people is different to the person who criticizes Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who criticizes Ibn Taymiyyah. Are you with me? If you criticize Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, we can still sit down and have a conversation. If you criticize Ibn Taymiyyah, we can have a discussion. I will show you why is your analysis wrong. But the Sahabas, it's a red line that I personally think any Muslim should not sit down. And you shouldn't tolerate it. You shouldn't let your ears become used to hearing criticism of the Sahabas. Inshallah, we're going to take a break. And then we're going to resume after that, inshallah ta'ala.
Brother, tea will be downstairs. And out. Sorry? Yeah, have it out and come in. Please don't bring food inside the hall.
So inshallah ta'ala we're going to resume off where we left off. Now I want to talk about what is it that made Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, Amma Salafis, Amma Al-Athari, what made them separate, and what was the groups that came, what did they do, what did they change, what did they tamper with? Where did the disagreement initially start from? Where did it come from? As we know, the religion was pure and it was clean at the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Messenger was alive. If there was any disputes and any arguments, they would bring it back to the Prophet, and he would answer it, and that was it. The one who didn't accept what the Prophet told him to do would be considered a hypocrite. And the Sahabas would take their matters to the Prophet. As Allah told them in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. Whenever disputes and argumentations and conflicts occurred, they took it back to the Messenger ﷺ. And he would tell them, this is right, this is wrong. And a lot did this used to happen. But when the Messenger ﷺ died, and he passed away, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu took over. And when Abu Bakr took over, some of the people, they refused to pay the zakat that they used to pay to the Prophet ﷺ. Some of the tribes, they refused to pay the zakat. And they said, we're not going to pay it. We don't want to pay it. We used to pay it to the Prophet. Now that the Prophet is dead, we don't have to pay it to anybody. The Umar radiallahu anhu now is the Muslim leader. He said, you guys have to pay this zakat. This is an obligation in the religion. Allah mentions it in the Quran. The Prophet mentioned it in the hadiths. But you guys have to pay. And Umar radiallahu anhu said, if you guys do not give me this zakat money, that is wajib for you guys to give, because he wants to distribute it to the poor people and the ones in need. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, I will fight with you guys. The Muslim leader, I'm going to forcefully take that wealth from you. Umar radiallahu anhu came to Abu Bakr and he said to him, why are you going to fight with them? Did Allah not say, did the Prophet not then say in the hadith that the person who says La ilaha illallah, that their blood is sacred? These are Muslims. How are you going to take their wealth? Umar radiallahu anhu, when he said that statement, Abu Bakr said to him, if they refuse to pay the zakat, I will fight with them based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which the Prophet said, Umirtu an uqatil an-nas, I was commanded to fight with the people until they what? Say La ilaha illallah, hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and they pray the salah and they give the zakat. If they do that, their blood becomes sacred from me, and their accountability is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was a conflict between Abu Bakr and Umar. How did they resolve it? Straight away the hadith. As soon as the hadith was quoted, what happened? Abu Umar radiallahu anhu didn't say anything after that. He said, I hear and I obey. Even Umar radiallahu anhu suggested, and he said to Abu Bakr, Usama ibn Zayd is young in age, and the army that he has to fight is a big army, and he's a young man, he's less than 20 years of age. He's carrying the largest fleet of Muslims, army. Change him with somebody else. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, La, I'm going to change someone the Prophet appointed? No, I'm not going to do that. And this is what showed, what is it? Following the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's how the Sahabas were. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, if any issue arose, he would look for an ayah in the Quran, in what position to take. If he couldn't find it, he would look for a hadith. And if he couldn't find it, he would call the most knowledgeable of the companions, and he would say, has any one of you heard a matter, has anyone heard of evidence for this issue? And one of them might say, I have. And he would say, what did you hear? And he said, I heard this, from the Prophet's mouth, alayhi salatu wasalam. And that Abu Bakr would act upon that. Umar did the same. When the plague hit Sham, and the people in Sham, the plague hit, Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to know what's the ruling in this issue. He didn't have the ruling, he didn't have the hadith for it. But Abdurahman ibn Auf mentioned what? He said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, if a plague hits a land, don't go into it, and the people in there should not come out, so it doesn't spread. Even at the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu, a woman gave birth at the age, she gave birth 6 months into her marriage. She gave birth to a child, and her husband accused her of adultery. He said that you cheated. The matter was taken to Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman didn't know what to do. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, there's nothing wrong with this woman. She's fine. What she did is there's nothing wrong with it. You can give birth in 6 months. And it's in the Quran. Where? Uthman is Hafiz. Memorize the Quran. Where? Then he recited the ayah, وَصَيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتُهُ كُرْهًا وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا. The breastfeeding and the pregnancy, Allah mentioned how many? 30. Yani 30 months. 30 شهرا. 30 months is the pregnancy and the what? Breastfeeding. That's what the verse said. Another verse mentioned that the breastfeeding is for how long? 2 years. وَالْوَالِدَاتِ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. 2 years is how many months? So how much are you left with?
6.
So the 6 is a what? Is a pregnancy. Ali ibn Abi Talib told him this. He said, there it is, it's in the Quran. Uthman didn't see this. Powerful istinbat of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, which indicated that the Sahabas, every step they wanted to take, every movement, any judgment, they looked at the Quran. Nothing else. Even at the late stages of the companions, deviated groups came, started to say evil things. The first group that came out was the Khawarij. The Khawarij came. They made the bloods of the Muslims halal. They were taking people out of the fold of Islam, and they were saying that they're kuffar and their blood is halal, and they were killing innocent people. So the Sahabas had to deal with them. So they really came out at the time with power, and some movement they came at the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They actually left the Muslims and they stayed in a place outside of Kufa, where Ali ibn Abi Talib was. Ali was in what? Kufa. After Mas'alat al-Tahkim, when Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu and Muawiyah, they came to a resolution and the matter was solved. They were not happy with that, the Khawarij. So they cut off from Ali ibn Abi Talib, and they used to cause fitna in the masjid. They used to look at Ali ibn Abi Talib and they would scream and they would say, Inil hukmu illa lillah. And they made takfir of who? Ali ibn Abi Talib. They said he's a kafir. Muawiyah, kafir. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, kafir. They made takfir of the Sahabas. So they were deviated groups. The Sahabas dealt with them. And one of the Sahabas who went and dealt with them was what? Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas, he dressed up one day, and Ali ibn Abi Talib said, go to them and talk to them. Speak to these people. What do they want? Ali ibn Abbas went. And he met them. And sat with them and said, what is your issue? And they said, our issue is a few matters. First of all, they criticized Ibn Abbas's appearance, the beauty and the way he was dressed. He had good clothes on. And they, on the other hand, they were aesthetic. They left the dunya. They were like Their clothing was simple. They had signs and marks of sujood on their foreheads. People who left the dunya, but deviation entered their hearts, right? Evil and deviation entered their hearts. They're getting closer to Allah. They are worshipping Allah. To hate Ali ibn Abi Talib and Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, may Allah be pleased with both of them, and the noble companions of the Messenger, that the shaitan has beautified it to them that much. Are we all together, brothers? So Abdullah ibn Abbas went to them and he said, what's the issue? What's the problem? And then they gave their reasons, and I don't want to go through the debate that took place between them, because I want to go through a historical issue, inshallah ta'ala. But Ibn Abbas debunked their arguments, and he took a large number of them from that misguidance with his knowledge, and they went with him. Are we all together, brothers? And then after that, the issue of the Rafidah came. What did they do? They went extreme on what? On the family of the Prophet ﷺ, specifically. Not all of them. They're not fanatic to Abdullah ibn Abbas and the other family of the Messenger. They picked and they chose who they wanted and selected. So they were dealt with by Ali ibn Abi Talib himself. Ali ibn Abi Talib in the Masjid of Kufa, he stood up and he said, Wallahi, I would lash the lashing of a person who falsely accuses a woman of zina. That lashing, I will lash them, the one who puts me before Abu Bakr and Umar. Are we all together? So he was saying that for what reason? He was dealing with a group of people who were going extreme. Are we all together? Actually, Ali ibn Abi Talib, a group of people, they took him to a level of uluhiyah. Ilah, what did he do to them? He burned them. Ali ibn Abi Talib got a fire. What did the poet say? وَلَمَّا رَأَيْتُ الْأَمْرَ أَمْرًا مُنْكَرًا أَجَجْتُ نَارِي وَدَعُوتُ قَنْبَرًا. Qambar was the man who was lighting the fire. Ali called for it. He took them all and he burned them in the fire. And guess what they said after that? Allah is ilah now. Because only Allah burns with the fire. He is ilah, Ali, they said. Abdullah ibn Abbas was told that Ali did that. And he said, if I was Ali, I would not have done that. Because I heard the Prophet ﷺ, he say, you should not burn nobody with the fire. Only Allah can. Are we all together? You can't burn people with fire. But Ali tried to deal with these people when they came with these ideologies. Even they came to him and they said to him, Ali has secret knowledge that no one else has. So they came to Ali, a group of people, they said, Ali, we have a question to ask you. Is there something you know and nobody else knows? Is there something that is secret that only you, the Prophet, told and nobody else? And he said, no. There's nothing that the Prophet told me, alayhi salatu wasalam, that's private to me, that no one else knows. No, not at all. Except that he mentioned something, and he mentioned something that's written on this paper for me. I said, what is that? And even that, he dictated it to the people, he told them. So this idea that they were saying, so the Sahabas, wherever innovation, wherever deviation occurred, what did they do? They dealt with it. They responded, they debunked it, and they didn't let it exist. Even at the time of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab, a group of people came and they rejected the qadar, the predestiny. They rejected it. So two noble men, Yahya ibn Ya'mar and Humayd ibn Abdurahman al-Himyari, both of them, they came to what? Abdullah ibn Umar. Either it was Hajj or Umrah, one of the two. They came to Abdullah ibn Umar and they told him, they said to him that there is a group of people that have come out from our side, Yani Basra. A man by the name of Ma'bad al-Juhani. And a group of people believe his ideology, which is, they believe there's no qadar. Abdullah ibn Umar, radiyallahu anhu, when he was told this, what did he say to them? They reject the qadar? He said, when you see those people, فَأَخْبِرْهُمْ, tell them, أَنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّنْهُمْ, I am free from them. وَأَنَّهُمْ بُرَآءٌ مِّنِّي, and that they are free from me, we have nothing to do with each other. And then he carried on saying, وَاللَّهِ لَوْ أَنفَقَ أَحَدِهِمْ, if one of them gives out in charity, مِثْلَ أُحُدٍ ذَهَبَ, the mountain of Uhud, you guys have seen the mountain of Uhud, right, how big it is. If they give the mountain of Uhud in gold, مَا قَبِلَ اللَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, Allah will not accept it from them, حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا بِالْقَدَرِ, until they believe in the qadar. Because it's from the 6 articles of faith. It's the Arkanul Iman al-Sitta. If you don't have it, you're not a Muslim, right? So if they don't come with the qadar, they don't believe in it, Allah won't accept any good from them. And then he didn't just say that, because the Sahabas they bring the evidence for everything. He said, I heard my father, Umar ibn al-Khattab, saying, بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم اطلع علينا رجل شديد بياض الثياب شديد سواد الشعر لا يرى عليه أثر السفر ولا يعرفه منا أحد حتى جلس إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأسند ركبتيه إلى ركبتيه ووضع كفيه على فخذيه وقال يا محمد أخبرني عن الإسلام. And then the Prophet told him about Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam. قال صدقت فعجبنا له يسأله ويصدقه قال فأخبرني عن الإيمان. And then he told him the 6 articles of Iman. أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وتؤمن بالقدر. That's what he wants from the hadith. And then after that he said قال فأخبرني عن الإحسان قال أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه قال فأخبرني عن الساعة قال بل مسؤول عنها بأعلم من السائل قال فأخبرني عن أماراتها قال أن تلد الأمة ربتها وأن ترى الحفاة العراة العالة رعاء الشاء يتطاولون في البنيان ثم انطلق فلبثت مليا ثم قال يا عمر أتدري من السائل قلت الله ورسوله أعلم قال فإنه جبريل أتاكم عليكم دينكم. So this hadith is what he used, Abdullah ibn Umar, to discuss, to show that if you don't believe in the 6 articles of faith, if you do not believe in the qadar, Allah will not accept it from you. So he said, go to Basra and tell these people I have nothing to do with them. So here what you can see is every time a group of people come up and they try to play with the religion, the Sahabas were alive, the people would come to the companions and the companions would clarify the issue. Are we all together? But these groups were coming out at the time of the Prophet. The time of the Sahabas. Are we all together? Especially at the ending of the time of the companions. Are we all together? Then after them, I mentioned the great jurists, the great imams of Medina. إذا قيل من في العلم 7 أبحر روايتهم ليست عن العلم خارجة فقل هم عبيد الله عروة قاسم سعيد أبي بكر سليمان خارجة. The 7 jurists of Medina, big imams, came out and then they what? They defended the religion, they taught and they educated. The people came to them and these 7 great imams passed away. They died. And then after them came what? The small tabi'een, like Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, and his tabaqah, his level. And who took from Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri? Al-Imam Malik rahimahullah, Imam Dar al-Hijrah, is in Medina. Some of the Sahabas, they went to Kufa. Some of the Sahabas, they left Medina when the Prophet passed away. And they started to live in what? Iraq. From them is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he had students that took from him, like Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, and from there came Al-A'mash, Sulaiman ibn Mihran, and from them came Hamad ibn Sulaiman, and from Hamad ibn Sulaiman came who? Abu Hanifa. Hamad ibn Sulaiman, he slightly went against the teachings of his teachers. Slightly. In one issue, and that issue went to who? Abi Hanifa. Look at, even if you slightly move a little bit, it creeps into someone. And that's why Abi Hanifa rahimahullah, one particular issue, Mas'alatul Iman, he didn't go in accordance to, he's a great Imam. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, a great Imam, a giant. But because that road that changed a little bit, something creeped into him that he was corrected on at his time. Rahimahullahu Rahmatan wasi'a. May Allah bestow His never-ending mercy on Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. And in Medina was who? Al-Imam Malik. Okay? Who took directly from who? Nafi'. Who took from who? Ibn Umar. And Ibn Umar took from who? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Golden chain. Iraqi said, إمساكنا عن حكمنا على سند بأنه أصح مطلقا وقد خاض به قوم فقيل مالك عن نافع بما رواه عنه ناسك. Meaning, Malik, Nafi' and Ibn Umar. Are we all together, brothers? Kufa, Abu Hanifa came. Abu Hanifa's students came. Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, Abu Ya'qub, Zufar. A'imma came from there. Malik, same with him. Students came from him. From them is Abdullah ibn Masalat al-Qa'nabi, Ibn Qasim, Ibn Wahbin, Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi. A'imma, Shafi'i. Came from was the students of who? Malik. Shafi'i went, he studied with Malik, went to Iraq, studied with the students of Abi Hanifa. From them was who? Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani and Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf. And then that's why Shafi'i, what he saw was Ahlul Hadith in Medina, Malik and Al-Awza'i and Abdullah ibn Mubarak and Hamad ibn Zayd and Hamad ibn Salaman, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Sufyan ibn Thawri. Those were Ahlul Hadith. And Ahlul Ra'i was who? Abu Hanifa and those who came from him. So what Shafi'i did was, he studied with these ones, and he studied with these ones. And when he studied, he thought, I should bring something to take from both of them, to make a science where everybody can benefit from. And then he authored his great kitab, Al-Risala, Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, on the request of his teacher, Abdurahman ibn Mahdi. Shafi'i wrote a science till today that we study called Usul al-Fiqh. That's where Usul al-Fiqh came from. This school and this madrasa, Shafi'i wrote Al-Risala. The poet, he said, وأول من ألفوا في الكتب محمد بن شافع المطلب وغيره كان له سريقة مثل الذي للعرب من خليقة. Shafi'i was the first person to write it. Are we all together? And then Shafi'i, after studying in Iraq, he taught Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hanbal. And then Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hanbal, he taught him. He taught Abu Thawr. He taught Hassan ibn Salih Za'farani. He taught many Imams in Iraq. And then he moved and left Iraq, Shafi'i. And then where did he go? He went to Egypt. Shafi'i rahimahullah, he went to Egypt. And then when he went to Egypt, he met his great students, Al-Rabi' ibn Sulaiman al-Muradi, Ismail ibn Yahya al-Muzani, Abu Ya'qub al-Buwayti, these great Imams. This time, these great Imams I just mentioned, and as Shafi'i is in Egypt teaching, an issue arises. And I want you guys to understand here. An issue arises. Shafi'i is still alive, Malik is gone, Abu Hanifa is gone. An issue arises that's been boiling for a long, long time. It was kind of dead because the Muslim ruler before that dealt with it, which was the issue of Al-Ja'd ibn Dirham. Al-Ja'd ibn Dirham was an evil man who went and studied Greek works and started to open doubts amongst the Muslims. The ruler of his time executed him. And so his issue and his problems came to an end. But there's one person who took from him. And that was none other than Al-Jahm ibn Safwan. Jahm ibn Safwan took from him. And Jahm ibn Safwan started to spread his ideologies. His ideologies, it crept into another group called the Mu'tazila. The Jahmiyyah's ideology crept into the what? The Mu'tazila. And that's why Al-Wasim ibn Ata and Amr ibn Ubayd, those two were the leaders of the Mu'tazila. Their ideology got passed on to who? Ahmad ibn Du'adin, Bishr al-Marisi. And Bishr al-Marisi and Ahmad ibn Du'adna were the worst enemies of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. They put him in prison. They were the cause of him to go into prison. He was lashed. He was beaten. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. He was in prison for so long. He wasn't allowed to teach anybody the religion. Ahmad suffered because of it. Great scholars were killed because of that issue. the issue of Khalq al-Quran, like Abu Yaqub al-Buwayti in Egypt was executed. Muhammad ibn Nuh, the friend of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, was also executed and was killed. This issue of the Quran being created. And who created this problem? The Jahmiyyah, who took from Ja'ad ibn Dirham. And so Ahmad took a very tough stance. The ruler asked him, do you believe the Quran is created? Yes or no? He said, I do not believe the Quran is created. You guys can do what you want to me. And they took Ahmad rahimahullah and they beat him and they lashed him and they physically harmed him. And Ahmad would still stick to his word that the Quran is not created, that the Quran is the speech of Allah. And he would reference many verses of the Quran. وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ أَبْلِغْهُ مَأْمَنَهُ. He says, look, Allah is saying that the Quran is my speech. He said, look, in the Quran, Allah separated between creating and the Quran. أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ, creating. وَالْأَمْرُ, and the Quran is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, how can they both be the same? Ahmad took the Quran. And listen to this. Ahmad ibn Abi Du'ad and Imam Ahmad were brought together in a room by the ruler. Ahmad just kept looking at the ruler. He ignored Ahmad ibn Du'ad. Ahmad ibn Du'ad at that time is Qadi al-Qudat. Qadi al-Qudat means he is the Ministry of Justice. He has a position. And he's whispering in the ear of the ruler. He's telling him, this is the right belief. You should believe this. So Ahmad is brought to the courtroom. Ahmad looks at the ruler. And the ruler says to him, I want you to debate this man, Ahmad ibn Du'ad. Ahmad says, I don't know this man to be from the people of knowledge. Where did he get knowledge from? I don't know. But he said, if you tell me as the ruler of the Muslims that I have to, I will. And Ahmad rahimahullah, what's amazing about him was that even though the ruler was physically beating him, you know what Ahmad ibn Hanbal said? He said, if the ruler, he doesn't have to, he one day was walking with his chains. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he was walking with what? His chains. He said that the ruler doesn't have to put me in chains. He doesn't have to. If he tells me to stay in my cell, I will stay. The doors can be open. I won't leave. I'll follow his command. I don't need to be in chains. I'm not going to run away. But I do not believe the Quran is created. This is a matter of the religion I cannot compromise on. You with me, brothers? So Ahmad ibn Hanbal, when they told him debate Ahmad ibn Du'adin, Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, I do not want to engage in your nonsense and your philosophy. I don't want to engage in that. I have Quran and I have Sunnah and I have what the early 3 generation has said. That's it. Salafi. I'm not going to argue on anything else. If you have a verse from the Quran, give it to me, I will use that verse. I will listen to you. If you have a hadith, give it to me. Ahmad's memorized 1 million hadith from memory. He's a walking encyclopedia. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, Shafi'i said about him, Shafi'i, the great Imam, Imam al-Shafi'i, said to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, if I ever quote a hadith, and it's not authentic or not, tell me, okay? And they recognize the value of what? Of what? And what did Ahmad ibn Hanbal say? He said, we had so much hadiths at our disposal. We had so many hadiths that we memorized. But until we sat with Shafi'i, we didn't know how to extract the rulings from it. Ahmad saying that. Shafi'i told us how to extract the rulings from the hadiths on the Quran. And Shafi'i is saying, Ahmad told us what is authentic and what is not. And the whole religion today, that's what it stands on, those two. Which is what? Authentic evidence and how you extract the ruling from it. Is there anything else? That's the whole religion. Make sure you give me evidence which is authentic and extract the ruling from it correctly. It's like somebody saying, you're allowed to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. And you say, what's your evidence? And he says, my evidence is, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The verse means, why do you not look at the way Allah created the camels? So I will say to you, the ayah is sahih. It meets the first criteria. It is the word of Allah. I agree with you. But what does that have to do with what we're talking about? The whole science of usul al-fiqh, what does it teach you? How to extract the ruling to the issue that you're talking about. So Shafi'i was a master in that. And Ahmad ibn Hanbal was a master in what? the authenticity of the hadith. And no doubt, Ahmad was also a master in extracting rulings from the Quran and Sunnah. Are we all together? I'm mentioning this history fast and quick so you guys understand how this religion reached us, pure and clean. Are we all together, brothers? Ahmad, rahimahullah, went through that torture. And he went through that trial and tribulation only because of a group of people who went against the Prophet's path but gained power. They gained power and they used the sword of the leader. Are we all together? And Ahmed stood his grounds, and some of the scholars of his time, they said to him, why do you not just take the easiest route out? We know in the Quran Allah says, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. If you are put under duress and somebody coerces you into something, you can always take the easiest way out. Just say if they, like Ammar ibn Yasir. Ammar ibn Yasir was a companion where Abu Jahl was torturing him and his mother and his father, right? And they said, insult the Prophet, we'll let you go. And Ammar ibn Yasir, a noble companion, he insulted the Prophet, so they let him go. And he cried, he came to the Prophet, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I did something bad. The Prophet said, what did you do? He said, Ya Rasulullah, just so I can save myself, I insulted you. The Prophet said, if they torture you again and they tell you to insult me, insult me. وَإِنْ عَادُوا فَعُدْ. If they go do it to you again, do it. In Islam, if somebody forces you to do something, you can find a way out by doing what they tell you to do, then do it. Of course, you're not allowed to kill another person if they say to you, kill this person, or we're going to kill you. You're not allowed to. Or if they say to you, go commit zina with somebody, or else we're going to kill you, you're not allowed to do that. But other than that, you should be able to get away with it. But Ahmed said, no, I'm not going to do that. They said, why? The Sahabi Ammar ibn Yasir did it. The Prophet let him. He said, there's a difference. Allahu Akbar. There is a difference. And the two situations are not similar. Why? He said, the people trust my words and what I am saying. If I today take that stance, they're going to think that's my stance and they're going to all believe it. So I have to hold my grounds and not let them believe that this is permissible to say that the Quran is created. Because it's true, when Ahmed came out of prison, everybody was holding their pen and paper. They were like, is it created or not? They wanted to document it. So when he saw all of that, he said, no, I can't, there's no way out for me. Ahmed rahimahullah passed away. Then Imam al-Bukhari came. Look at Kitab Sahih al-Bukhari. In there are chapters where Imam Bukhari is refuting these deviated groups. Bukhari. There's a chapter in there. Al-Raddu ala al-Jahmiyah. Refutation on the Jahmiyah. Bukhari wrote a whole kitab. After he wrote his Sahih, he wrote a separate kitab where he called it Khalqu Af'al al-Ibad, where he spent the first half of the book refuting the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyah. And Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is to keep this religion clean, brothers and sisters. I want to conclude by saying something. That after all of that, from that time to Ahmed ibn Hanbal's time, there came a group who were in the background. Nobody really took time out to refute them because the biggest problem wasn't them. The biggest problem was who? The Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyah. They were the biggest problems. Are you with me, brothers? So the ulama Ahlul Sunnah were dealing with the Mu'tazila, and they were dealing also with the Jahmiyah and the other groups and the Khawarij and all of that. But there was a group lurking in the back who were also refuting the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyah. Are we all together, brothers? Which were the Ash'ariyah. That's why you're not going to easily find the Sha'ira refuted at the time of what? The four Imams. Because they came after. Abil Hassan al-Ash'ari came after all of that. Are we all together, brothers? So when they came, not only did they come, but they came with influence, and they came with, they seeped into the Muslim community fast and quickly. And what helped them the most was people who held good positions in Islam embraced this ideology. Are we all together, brothers? honorable people to be honest, embraced some of the teachings of the Ash'ari, and some of them became even part of them. Are we all together? And the first time that they became the most dominant belief was at the time of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Salahuddin al-Ayyub, he played a big role in allowing it to spread, especially in Egypt. Egypt, as you all know, Rafida took over, the Ismailiyya took over, and Salahuddin al-Ayyub, what he did was, he took them out, and he put, who did he put in place? The Ash'ari. And Salahuddin took a very history praiseworthy individual for what he did for the Muslims. Are we all together? He wasn't a scholar, he wasn't a student of knowledge, he was a commander, but he took an honorable position for Islam, which he's praiseworthy for. But there's nobody who's free from mistakes. Are we all together? Another man who was an honorable man, is Nuruddin al-Zanki rahimahullah, who also embraced their belief. Are we all together? Because the war wasn't with them at the beginning, it was with who? Huh? It was with the Mu'tazila and the Jahmi and all of them. Until one man came, and he took it upon himself to clear everything, to bring everything back to its nisab. Things were going out of order. Single-handedly. There were attempts before that, but one man single-handedly took on the Ash'ari and made it his life mission to get every mistake that they did and correct it. And that's none other than who? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Islam, Ahmad ibn Abdul Halim, Ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani rahimahullah, single-handedly took it upon himself, and he went after them. Oh yeah, he did. And they went after him. Sah? They made him spend a good time in prison, and he made them spend a good time in prisons in their heads. He refuted all the figureheads, starting from their Shaykh Fakhruddin al-Razi. He wrote a masterpiece on Fakhruddin al-Razi, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. He dealt with Abi Hamid al-Ghazali rahimahullah. He debunked his arguments and his beliefs. He went after Abu Bakr al-Baqilani and the mistakes that he fell into. He went after Abu Ma'ali al-Juwayni. He dealt with his issues, rahimahullah ta'ala. And from that day onwards, I don't know anybody who embraced Salafiyah. I don't know anybody who embraced Aqeedah to Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah that came after that man that did not benefit from his works. Everybody. Are we all together? Every single person who came after him, he was an ocean. So everybody had their cup, and they took from his ocean a cup and said, this is how much I need. Some people, their cup was big, so they took a lot. Some people, their cups are small, so they only took some of his works and benefited from it. Are we all together, brothers? Whether you like it or not, brothers and sisters, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah is a figure in Islam. You cannot deny his existence. What I mean by his existence, not that he lived and he died. I mean the mark he left in history. He left a dent in history. That not only the Muslims recognized it, but even the non-Muslims, the academics, the Orientalists, they acknowledged it. I remember in university, my university was opposite to SOAS. Anyone here know SOAS? Okay, SOAS it's the biggest Orientalist university in the West. So I used to go to a university right opposite to it. So Salah time would come in, the brothers from SOAS and I would all pray together. So I used to go to the SOAS department, I used to meet the Arabic teachers there, I would talk with them, converse with them, and they used to say to me, Abdurahman, non-Muslims, we are really interested in the works of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. We're interested in this man. A lot of his works are translated. So we read, but there are things of his that is not translated in the English language. Are you guys never planning to translate these things for us? Are we all together? Are you ever never planning to go that direction and translate his works and teach us it? Are we all together, brothers? I think in my schedule, are we going to talk about the life of Ibn Taymiyyah?
Yes.
Okay. Before I finish, inshallah. Ibn Taymiyyah, when he came, every scholar that you today can possibly think of to be from the ulama of al-Islam, all of them, whether it be from the scholars of Yemen, like Muhammad ibn Ali Shawkani, al-Imam Amir al-San'ani, you name them, or it be from the scholars of Iraq, like Mahmud Shukri al-Alusi, rahimahullah, and whether it be from the scholars of Sham, whether it be Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah and Jamaluddin al-Qasimi rahimahullah, or it be from the scholars of what? Egypt, like Muhammad Khalil al-Harras, and you name them, and all the other scholars. Or it be from the scholars of Saudi Arabia, whether it be Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and his grandchildren. Every one of them is the product of who? So why? Why Ibn Taymiyyah? Ibn Taymiyyah became the person who really he swallowed the Salaf and the views of the Salaf and the reality of what the Salaf meant by their statements. He swallowed it. He swallowed everything. Rahimahullah. وَلِذَلِكَ it's very hard for somebody who came after Ibn Taymiyyah to read the Salaf, except they need to look at what Ibn Taymiyyah brought on the kalam of the Salaf. Because he will not just bring you one qawl. Ibn Taymiyyah will explain another view of the Salaf, and another view of theirs, and another view of theirs. We're talking about 3 golden generation. They will reference all of them just for that one verse, or that one issue, whether it be. I'm going to conclude with this last final point. There are 5 things that finally became the Aqeedah books focused on. Books of Aqeedah that we started to read. And the reason why these books of Aqeedah was written was because all of those groups that deviated, now Ahlul Sunnah wanted to say, you know what? We need to be distinct. We need to be separated from all of those deviated groups. This is the issues that these Ahlul Sunnah believe, and these deviated groups, they go wrong on. And it goes back to 5 issues. Number 1 is the issue related to the companions. Issues related to what? The Sahabas. The second one is, so the first one was what? As-Sahaba. The second issue is Masailul Asma'i was Sifat. Allah's names and what? Attributes. Deviation happened. Many groups became deviated in that issue. Are we all together, brothers? The third is what? Masailul Asma'i wal Ahkam. Issues of Masail al-Ahkam is what? Takfir. And
saying about
If that literally goes back to al-asma' wa sifat. It's mas'alatul kalam. Is it sifa dhatiyya? Is it sifa fi'liyya? Al-kalam al-nafsi. Bab al-asma' wa sifat enters. Let's repeat it one more time. Number one, مسائل الصحابة. هي الأسماء والصفات. هي الأسماء والأحكام. الوعد والوعيد. Yeah? Terms is الأسماء والأحكام. الوعد والوعيد. What am I missing? إيمان is in الأسماء والأحكام. Yeah? مسائل القضاء والقدر. جزاك الله خيرا. مسائل القدر. The issues related to qadar. Those 5 issues, they became what? They became
Foundation of Aqidah books.
the kutub al-i'tiqad revolve around those 5. They revolve around what? Those 5. Any kitab al-aqidah you open, whether it be Abu Qasim Hibatullah al-Lalakai's kitab, Sharh Aqidat Ahl-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, whether it be kitab, the Aqidah book written by Abu Qasim al-Taymi, Al-Hujjah fi Bayan al-Mahajjah, whether it be the kitab, Sharh al-Sunnah al-Imam al-Muzani, Sharh al-Sunnah by al-Imam al-Barbahari, whether it be I'tiqad A'immat al-Hadith by Abu Bakr al-Ismaili, Aqidat al-Salaf wa Ashab al-Hadith by al-Imam Abu Uthman al-Sabuni, and whether it be kitab al-Sunnah by Harb al-Kirmani, kitab al-Sunnah by Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hanbal, whether it be kitab al-Aqidah in al-Tahawiyah, al-Wasitiyah, al-Hamawiyah, al-Tadmuriyah, every kutub al-i'tiqad, Aqidat al-Raziyain by Abu Zur'at al-Razi and Abu Hatim al-Razi, every book of Aqidah you read, it goes back to those 5. Those 5 became where the dispute and argumentations went back to. In the issues of Aqidah, it goes back to those 5. Anything you bring up now, I can show you it's one of those 5. Are we all together? And who mentioned that these are 5? Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. He mentions in his kitab Mujmal al-I'tiqadi Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. I finished my topic today, inshallah ta'ala. I hope it was an overload of information. I tried to make it as brief and as summarized as possible. And I ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala that Allah allows us to live upon the love of the Sunnah, and that Allah takes our life and we are upon the Sunnah. If I in any way, shape or form offended anybody whilst talking, then I apologize. And I also ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to forgive me for any mistakes or shortcoming. I think we're going to take some of your questions, inshallah ta'ala. Always questions, huh? Okay, Allahumma barik.
Question was about the Imam Abu Hanifa. You said it has been slightly deviated from the original teaching of the Salaf.
In one issue.
Whereas he has said that if any of my saying goes against the Sahih Hadith, it's not about the one.
Sahih.
So can you point out why he has been slightly deviated?
Okay. There's one thing I want us to, inshallah, remember. The Sahabas, when it comes to fundamental matters of the religion, they did not dispute each other. Just remember this, brothers. Aqidah, you heard that name. Has everybody heard the term al-Aqidah? Put your hand up if you've not heard the word Aqidah before. Don't worry, it's fine if you've not heard it before. There's always a point in your life where you hear things, right? Hey, who's heard al-Fiqh? Now, who hasn't heard al-Fiqh? Al-Fiqh, good. So we have like Aqidah and we also have Fiqh. Fiqh meaning jurisprudent rulings. How to pray, how to fast, how to purify yourself, how to give zakat, how to go hajj and do that. Okay. Those 2 topics. Al-Aqidah and what? Remember this. And if you're going to quote me on this to somebody else, quote me correctly. Aqidah, the bulk of it, the majority of it, is fundamental matters of the religion. The bulk of Aqidah is what? Fundamental matters of the religion. There are issues in Aqidah which are subsidiary issues. There are issues which are furu'. in Aqidah. That's so small, like him. The majority of Aqidah is what? Usul. Fiqh, let's go to fiqh. Fiqh, the majority of fiqh is what? Subsidiary issues, it's furu'. And there are in fiqh small number of what? Fundamental issues, usul. Are we all together? Like, is salah wajib or not? Where are we going to study that? Kutub al-fiqh. Is that a fundamental issue?
Yes.
It's a fundamental issue. But it's not in Aqidah, it's in what? It's fiqh. So majority of fiqh is what? Majority of fiqh is what? Subsidiary issues. And the majority of Aqidah is what? Fundamental. Now, understand something. The subsidiary issues of Aqidah, there was dispute amongst the Sahabas in those subsidiary issues. In Aqidah. Like, did the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam see Allah or not? The night of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. It's studied in Aqidah, right? But it's a subsidiary issue. Laylat Isra wal-Mi'raj, was Allah seen? Did the Prophet see Allah or not? There is a khilaf. Are we all together? But that doesn't make a person deviated, whatever view he takes. It doesn't. Are we all together? Because it's not a fundamental issue of the religion. But if somebody says, the day of judgment, Allah will not be seen. Oh, this is a fundamental issue. This is a fundamental issue. Does that make sense to you, brothers? So when you hear this issue is a subsidiary issue, meaning it's furu', it means if there are difference of opinion in it, no one's deviated. No one's corrupt. Fiqh, the Sahabas disputed each other in issues of fiqh. Yani issues of furu' I'm referring to. Like for example, does your wife break your wudu if she touches you? You're just about to leave the door. Your wife says, why don't you hug me? And you hug your wife. Some brothers, they keep it official. They just shake hands. Like it's a business transaction. So that handshaking that you've just done, and you walked out, there is a difference of opinion whether you have wudu or not. Are we all together? Two Sahabas differed on it. On the tafsir of the ayah, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءِ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ وَإِن كُنتُمْ جُنُبًا فَاطَّهَّرُوا وَإِن كُنتُمْ مَرْضَىٰ أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ. There are two views. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who believes أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاء means what? Physically touching. Ibn Abbas believed what? أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاء meant it's intercourse. Shafi'i, our madhab that we take in my country, we're Shafi'iyya, brothers. We study the fiqh of Imam al-Shafi'i. Now some of you are looking at me like, are you Salafi and Shafi'i? How does that work? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with studying a fiqh and also following what? A madhab. Are we all together, brothers? Doesn't conflate. Can somebody be Salafi and be Hanafi? Of course he can be. Some of you are like, no. When I went to India, I gave a lecture and I was talking about the permissibility of following a madhab in India. One brother said, Wallahi, I'm upset with you. I said, why? He goes, no, you can't follow the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa. How are you telling the people to follow his madhab? So there is strictness from some people. But we'll explain what we mean by that, because it's your question. So the majority of issues of fiqh is what? Subsidiary issue. So the Sahabas differed on it. That's why you're going to find Imam Abu Hanifa saying something in an issue of fiqh. And then Malik saying something else. And Shafi'i saying something else. And also Ahmed saying something else. Those issues of fiqh, is there a right opinion in it? Is the truth only one or is it more? Brothers, the truth is always one. The truth is always one. But the issues of fiqh, lakin, what is the truth is subjective now. Whereas in issues of i'tiqad, what is the truth is what? Objective. It's concrete. You believe this or you're deviated. In fiqh, lakin, you want to put your hand here or you want to put your hand here. Okay. We can have our discussion, but no one's deviated. Do you want to move your finger in the salah or you don't want to? We can have our discussion whether the hadith is sahih or not. But again, we can love each other as brothers. Do you want to say Ameen loud or not? We can have those discussions, but they're subsidiary issues. Are we all together, brothers? And the problem that the Muslims have, or a lot of the students of knowledge, the problem that happened was they took issues which were furu', which were subsidiary issues, and they made it into what? That became a problem. So for example, Ramadan comes, some brothers believe Taraweeh is only 11 rak'ah. Okay, that's your opinion, akhi. He says, yes, you cannot add any prayer. You can't make it more than 11. Okay, that's good. But we don't believe that. I don't personally believe that 11 is only. I believe more. And I believe that's the strongest opinion, that you can pray more than 11. But I'm also happy for somebody to take another opinion. That shouldn't get between us as brothers. Are we all together, brothers? But if you take that issue and you base brother love and hate on it, you're causing a division amongst the Muslims that's unnecessary. Are we all together, brothers? Does that make sense? So Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, when he said إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي, where it's masail which are furuh, which he can take a madhab in, because he's from the A'immatul Ijtihad. But the issue that they critiqued him in is the issue of al-Iman, Mas'alatul Iman. Ahlul Sunnah believe that the Iman is what? Speech and action. And Imam Abu Hanifa here, authentically transmitted from him, which is a little concern came from him on this view that he held. But the scholars did not put him down. They did not disregard him out of the fold of Ahlul Sunnah. They held him with high esteem, but they did not take this from him. And they didn't tolerate this mistake. Whereas the other subsidiary issues that he differed on, they knew that that was a valid difference of opinion. Does that make sense? Yeah.
What was the point?
I mean,
Oh, it was a long point.
No, the point about
Next, brother. The deviation.
deviation.
The slight deviation.
I mentioned it.
You talk about Iman.
Iman, Mas'alatul Iman. Whether the actions are part of Iman or not. Whether Iman, actions are part of Iman. It's a long issue. Whether what constitutes the view of Abu Hanifa is a long discussion. But it's an issue of Iman, that's all you just need to know. Hey?
I asked you earlier before we broke, for a break, and Muslim can, be wrong, but that doesn't mean Islam is wrong. And same way, a Salafi can be wrong, that doesn't mean Islam is wrong. And
Sahih.
that's gone back to this topic which you just answered now.
Yeah.
But how about someone who lives in Kuwait and for Ramadan they pray 11 prayers, and then they go for, say, a weekend to India, and then they pray more than that, say, can someone practice, mix up?
Yeah, you can practice it. Oh, no problem. For example, some of you might find this strange. Because it's a valid difference of opinion, some issues of fiqh, just not to cause division amongst the people. Are we all together, brothers? And from what we learned from our scholars, is that some issues of fiqh, I tolerate on it. To the extent where, and I've got Salaf for this, whereas if I go to a masjid of the Ahnaf, the Hanafis, and I'm leading them, they say, Sheikh, lead us. I don't put my hand on my chest, even though I normally do. I keep it here. There's a valid difference of opinion on the issue. Are we all together? I'm leading them, they ask me to lead. And if they give me the voice to explain to them in more details as time comes on, I will explain to them. Maybe it's better just to put it a bit up. Like I won't tolerate, for example, should we celebrate the Prophet's birthday? I want to be like, I will eat with you guys, inshallah. Are we all together, brothers? Because this issue doesn't take that toleration. It's an innovation, a newly added matter into the religion. So we need to learn where we can and where we can't. Where it's just purely wrong, and where it's, inshallah, it's a fit issue.
For example, we know about the importance of following the Salaf, but can you give us some guidance, like how to make a balance between applying own judgment and making taqleed of the Salaf?
So the Salaf, rahimahumullah, us following them and following their path, we should avoid using taqleed. لأن التقليد means, the term taqleed means, it means أخذ قول الغير, is to take somebody else's opinion without no evidence. Us following them, lakin we have evidence to follow them. Are we all together? So what we say is more doing ittiba' of the Salaf. That's the word we use. Adhering to their way. So for example, the Sahabas differed in an issue with two opinions. Sah? How many opinions? Two opinions. Somebody is not allowed to create a third opinion. There's two opinions, right? On this issue. You have to look at the two opinions that's there and choose from one of them. That's it. No one's allowed to come and create a third opinion. Are we all together, brothers? Full stop. Because they differed and they also agreed on something. What did they agree on? For it to be only two opinions. And what did they differ upon? That one took this opinion and one took that opinion. Does that make sense? We are not allowed to create a third opinion. We have to choose within these two opinions. We have to look at each party's evidences. And we take whoever's right. Are we all together? That doesn't mean that if they differ amongst themselves, that this person is evidence, you have to take it. No. We might disagree with Abu Bakr and say, Abu Bakr, here we take the call of Umar radiallahu anhu. Because Umar has evidence in this issue. Abu Bakr didn't have an evidence in the issue. We say that. We love Abu Bakr. He's on our head. Does that make sense?
Just to answer that, sorry.
Can I just take his question and then I'll come back for you.
To go back to your previous explanation of going back to some masjid in India, and you just prayed like this instead of this one. This is a subsidiary issue, I understood. But other issue, even if you go with the subcontinent, especially immediately after the prayer, Imam will ask for dua and people will back will say Ameen. But this is not a subsidiary issue.
No, that's not.
So this one we cannot compromise.
Yes, sahih.
We should stay away from this.
Sahih. Correct. As I said,
I just want to understand the difference between the
because
major issue and subsidiary.
the subsidiary issue is issues which is differences go back to the third generation. The three generations, sorry. It's within that three generations. There was a difference then that's a valid difference of opinion. Anything that came after that, it's a newly invented matter, it's added to the deen, we don't tolerate it.
After?
Atba'u tabi'in, after 300 years after the Prophet, taqriban, approximately. Yep, we took that at the beginning of our lecture. Yeah.
Last two questions.
Last three questions. Okay, last three questions. I promised him I was going to come back to him. I'm going to take you and you, inshallah. Hey.
You said earlier, it's already heavy, don't make it heavier. And for some of us modern Muslims or young ones, our generation, where our concentration is at the lowest point ever, you know, some of us would not be able to even finish a chapter of it in a day. Right?
It's true.
So let alone the great and the last working of all the imams before that. So what do you suggest for some of the young ones here and the old elderly? Where do we start, rather than making it too tough for us to balance out our life and to actually, you know, take the first step of being on the right path in terms of education and
Very good question. I'm sure a lot of you guys will probably agree with me when I say this. I might be wrong. That I also suffered from this, which is, you think to yourself, it's a lot or nothing. I have to read this whole book in 1 week, or you know what, I'm not doing anything. And that's not right. You could read a page a week if you want, or half a page a week, but be consistent upon that. Some people say, I have to memorize 1 page of the Quran every day. No, if you memorize 1 ayah, but be consistent upon that. It's not a race. You're not racing anyone. أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. The action that's most beloved to Allah is that which is consistent, even if it's what? Even if it's little. So it's about quality rather than quantity. And guess what? The poet, he said, اطلب ولا تضجر من مطلب فآفة الطالب أن يضجر أما ترى الماء بتكراره في الصخرة الصماء قد أثرا. If you look at water, if it keeps dropping on a rock, a rock, that water will pierce the rock over time. Have you guys seen that before? If you guys don't, go to YouTube, there's a video that done it. Fast forward it, you'll see over time that water is going to dent the rock. Why? That's only one drop. Consistency. Consistency. Don't give up. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. One day you're going to see, wow, my half a page, I finished 3 volumes this year. It was 3 volumes that you would not have finished if you didn't take that small stepping stone. So start slow. And of course, Ibn Taymiyyah's books are big. Some of them are volumes. Some of them are... So don't start with the big books. Start with the small ones. And of course, start with studying with a teacher first. And then you get to there where you will start learning, inshallah ta'ala, appreciate his works. So everything that starts in life, it's gradual. It's bite-sized. The Quran took how many years to come down? Allah didn't send it all down once, did He? Did He? 23 years. So He gave the Sahabas 23 years. One of my friends, he says, if you can't finish the Quran in 23 years, there's something wrong. 23 years, take your time.
So is there any specific, let's say if I were to start the letters of A, B, C, D, is there any specific guidance you would give to start, the smallest or the easiest where to start?
Yeah, so these questions are very general. It's always good to know you and understand you and your level of your studying and everything, and then prescribe the right curriculum for you, inshallah ta'ala. But what we could do is, the last session that we have here, we could make it maybe a longer Q&A session, and inshallah ta'ala, I can then tell you guys what books to do in different sciences and to study with your teachers, inshallah ta'ala. You and then you, inshallah. Yeah? Allahumma ameen.
Sheikh, may you please speak about the hadith لا يصلين أحد العصر إلا في بني قريظة? Please speak about this situation.
So this hadith is very vital. It's a very beneficial hadith when it comes to the issues of difference of opinion. The Prophet ﷺ, after he came from the Battle of Khaybar, he told the companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum, he said to them, listen, go. The Battle of Khandaq, sorry, Ahzab, Jazakallah khairan. The Prophet ﷺ, what he did was, he told them, go to this tribe, Banu Qurayza. There were 3 tribes of the Jews, right? How many tribes were there? Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, and Banu Nadir. So the Prophet said to the companions, لا يصلين أحدكم, not one of you should pray Al-Asr, Salatul Asr, إلا في Banu Qurayza. Pray in Banu Qurayza. So the Sahabas, when they heard this from the Prophet, they took 2 madhabs. 2 madhabs actually formed from just this hadith. The 2 madhabs I mentioned before. One madhab was Ahlul Zahir. They took the apparent of the verse, the hadith. So they said, the Prophet told us not to pray Asr, so that means we literally have to delay Asr up till, whatever time, it doesn't matter, until we reach Banu Qurayza. We're not going to pray. Even if the sun sets. They took the apparent meaning of the hadith. Another group said, no, look at what the Prophet intended. So they're not sticking to the wording. They're saying, what was the Prophet's meaning behind it? They said he meant hasten. But he didn't mean delay the prayer. He was just saying, Asr is close, get there before Asr. Are we all together? What just happened? 2 madhabs. The madhab of Ahlul Zahir, they stick to their wording. Another one, what did they say? No. The meaning of the hadith. I'm going to come back to the hadith, but it reminds me of a book I read. It's by Nasb al-Rai, by Imam al-Zayla'i rahimahullah. He mentions that a man prayed in a dark room, took off all of his clothes and he prayed. And they said to him, what are you doing? Why are you praying in a dark room naked? And he said, did Allah not say, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا? وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ? He took the verse and he applied it what? Are we all together, brothers? So he said, I don't need to dress in a dark room. The night is my clothes. Are we all together, brothers? So this indicates and this shows how to then stick to the word and the meaning behind it. Are we all together, brothers? So this the group that said, let's get there before Asr, and that's what the Prophet intended. And the other one who said, no, the Prophet said, delay the prayer. The Prophet, when they came, both parties came to him and they told him what happened and what they did, he did not tell of any of the two parties, which is what the scholars use for a backbone as the understanding of the hadith. If it can take multiple meanings, then inshallah ta'ala is what? Is a valid difference of opinion. But there's a difference here. Don't use this hadith for an evidence to say this person has an evidence and another one doesn't have no evidence. That's not what the hadith proves. The hadith proves both parties have evidence. But how do we understand this evidence is where the argument is. But if one is saying, قال Rasulullah, and the other one is saying, قال Shaykhi, my Shaykh is saying, you can't say there's a valid difference of opinion. Do you understand, brothers? Last question, inshallah. Another benefit here. It's not from the sunnah to give salams whilst we're sitting and people are asking questions. And people tend to do that a lot. Sah? They'll say, Shaykh, assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. The salam is only done when you come in and you've given us the salam, we've all taken the salams. Now we gave each other salams and you guys said salamu alaikum when you came in. Before every question, everybody doesn't have to say. And if you say you have to, daleel. Sah? Sah, brothers? So there's no evidence to support it, inshallah. Benefit, okay? Barakallah fika, yeah.
So we should understand the Quran as per the Salaf. So how do we deal with more discussions which come up during the modern times, like scientific miracles of the Quran and discussions? So how do we...
Good. Very good, mashallah. Now he's asked another good question. The question is, as we know, Islam is fit for every time and place. There are going to be new things that are going to come up that was not present at the time of the three noble generations. And so that we're going to need rulings for these issues. Matters which the three golden generation haven't seen. The scholars have to do ijtihad. They have to do independent reasoning. They have to look into the evidences and extract rulings from it. Pay attention to this. They can. And that door of ijtihad is not closed. But they are not allowed to go against what the three noble generation have set. They can only work within the perimeter set by the three golden generation. So if they give a fatwa, and that fatwa that they've given on this issue, it damages, it goes against principles of the religion, it will be dismissed. Sorry. Are we all together? Does that make sense? So the framework that you're allowed to work from is what? That they said. Of course they didn't answer every question, right? But the religion is what? The poet, he said, فَدِينُنَا لَمْ يَخْلُعْ عَنْ حُكْمٍ عَلَى مَرِّ الزَّمَانِ لَوْ بَدَى مَا أَعْضَلَ لِأَنَّهُ قَدْ احْتَوَى قَوَاعِدَ تُسْتَخْرَجُ الْأَحْكَامَ عَنْهَا رَاشِدًا. Our religion is principles. That's why, do you think Quran and Sunnah talk about every detailed issue? Halal, haram, halal, haram, halal. Is that what you got? Is there a list of halal and haram? How do you know what's halal and haram? You're taking it to principles that under it millions of issues can fall under. That's why if a person memorizes al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya and masters that science, qawa'id al-fiqhiyya is a principle, and guess what? I'll give you one example and then inshallah we're going to conclude. I memorized the hadith إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِنِيَّاتٍ. It's a principle in the religion. Every action is based on what? Your intentions. So somebody comes up to me and the poet, he said, خمس مقرر في قواعد مذهب للشافعي فكن بهن خبيرا ضرر يزال وعادة قد حكمت وكذا المشقة تجلب التيسير. And in there is what? إنما الأعمال بالنيات. So I've studied إنما الأعمال بالنيات. It's one of the 5 legal maxims of our religion. So somebody comes up to me and says, Abdurahman. I say, okay, yes. He says, I prayed Salatul Dhuhr with the intention of what? Asr. Is my salah accepted? What do I say? No. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Next question. He goes, okay, I have a second question. I said, what's the second question? I said to my wife, you're free to go. You're free to go. But I didn't mean divorce. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. She's not divorced. If you didn't mean it, and this word can take those 2 interpretations, then إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Next question. How many, you can ask me millions of issues that I might be able to just bring it back to? إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Are we all together? That's why if you learn these principles and you hold on to them, you're able to what? Maybe answer so many different issues, inshallah ta'ala. And that's why if you just study furu' al-fiqhiyah, you fiqh books, and then you know the fiqh books, you know, where they study yajuz, la yajuz, and you study all of that, you're not going to necessarily be a faqih unless you study these legal maxims. Brothers and sisters, I love you all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah to preserve you and honor you. I could stop there, inshallah ta'ala. Anything I've said that was wrong or incorrect is from me and shaitan, and Allah and His Messenger are both free from it. Subhanakallahumma bihamdi ashhadu an la ilaha illallah astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayh.
Brothers, tomorrow we are starting at 3:30. Inshallah, try to come on time. So we will try, we will start on time, inshallah. Jazakallah.